day. Thank you very much for coming to the webinar. Just going to wait for a few people to trickle in there. Just while we wait, I'm going to start running through what webinars we have upcoming for this month. You can see if there's anything you're interested in attending in future, if you've not already registered or we haven't sent out the mail shot as of yet. So obviously today we'll be going over the Lightkey Beginner's Guide. Next Tuesday should be a good one where it'll be an introduction to text-aid. So Mary will be able to answer all your questions about text-to-speech using text-aid. Just in case you didn't know, they've actually got text-aid in a Welsh voice now. So I think she'll be doing a webinar on that a little bit later on in the month as well. So if you're familiar with Lightkey or you enjoy this webinar, it'd be worthwhile registering for Lightkey tips and tricks as well, where I'll be going a little bit deeper into all the less known factors of Lightkey, such as toggling through predictions, such as using Lightkey anywhere in a bit more detail and using it for maths. I will touch upon using it anywhere and maths today, but I'll be diving a little bit deeper, so that could be quite a useful one if you're using Lightkey to any particular degree. Another project I'll be doing a webinar on is Abby Fine Reader. So if you're interested in making accessible, interactive and editable PDF for all likes of students using OCR and filling in forms and everything like that, we'll be giving a broad overview of what Abby is and all the many, many features that can be used within the education. Ryan will be going over MindMeister. So if you're a fan of mind mapping tools, it's definitely a good one to keep an eye on. I generally use mind mapping myself to help me plan out these webinars before we start. And we've also got a lightning session on. So we'll be going over, we'll take an hour and just go over 15-minute intervals for each and every product. So you'll be able to just sort of get the whole range of products all done in the space of an hour. And we'll be talking about how maybe we use them together and that sort of thing. I'm going to be doing more specialized webinars on Abby as well. So I'll be talking about sort of document conversion and fully editing PDF with the OCR editor. And there's a few more webinars coming up at the end of the month, but before I waste too much time, let's get started in the actual Lightkey Beginner's Guide. Just to make sure, can everyone hear me okay? Can someone just pop something in the chat just so I know that I'm not talking too quietly or I haven't put my microphone on for whatever reason? It would be greatly appreciated, just like a hi or fantastic. Thank you very much, Tom. That's greatly appreciated. Right, so here's my document on Word here. And here's just a few subjects I'll be going over today during this Lightkey presentation. For those who are completely unfamiliar with Lightkey, I'll just give you a broad overview as to what it is now. And then hopefully by the end of this short 20-minute webinar, you'll have a very good understanding of what it is, how it works, and who it can help. So Lightkey is a text prediction software powered by artificial intelligence. And that means it's going to learn from you, the user, how you write, what you write. And over time, it's going to save the user a lot of time. It's going to be able to provide spelling, grammar, and punctuation corrections, as well as predictions as the user writes and engages with it. It is completely confidential and private as well, so we don't actually collect any user data. So all data is completely stored on your device. We don't collect anything from yourself. There's been a few new updated features in terms of visual impairment, such as color highlights and this new read aloud setting, which I'm quite excited to show you if you've not seen it already. Operates in 80 different languages. Again, that's something I'll touch upon as we continue through. It's downloadable on Windows, but it also works on Chromebooks through a Chrome extension. It does, in my opinion, work better on Windows because you can open the desktop app, it's more personalized and it learns more from you, and you just download that software directly onto your computer. By the way, if anyone does have questions as we're going through, please feel free just to pop them in the chat. I'll try and get to them. Otherwise, I'll get to them at the end in any case. Without further ado. So straight away, when you get Lightkey, it's already trained in various methods of spell correction. So the version I like to reference is a very typical style of dyslexic spelling, for example, which is phonetical. I know that's how I generally spell. So if I was to take a word such as bureaucracy, which is quite a long word, and I don't really think anybody knows how to spell bureaucracy, really. And I spell it out phonetically how perhaps a dyslexic person would. It'll be able to identify that that's what I was trying to spell in this case. So as you can see, I didn't spell that correctly, but has been able to pick up that I was spelling bureaucracy in this occasion. It's also capitalized it as well for me, which is very useful. But I mean, this can work for literally any number of words as the user's going down, such as chimney here, quite a simple word. Or an example that I've been shown quite a lot, is quite a good one, is Mississippi. Just put an M, lots of S's, and maybe a P in there, and you'll be able to pick up that I was trying to spell Mississippi. And this just shows you that it is trained automatically to learn different methods of spelling. Another great one it uses is key location. So Lightkey actually knows the keyboard that you'll be writing on. It knows the locations of each and every key. So let's say I'm writing quite quickly. I'm a touch typer myself, but I miss keys all the time. If you saw our 1280s of Christmas Lightkey, then you'll know that I missed quite a few keys, and that was completely by accident. But let's say I write Lightkey and I'm going to miss all the keys on purpose. As you can see, the word I've written isn't Lightkey, but just based on that key location, it's been able to figure out that I was spelling Lightkey. And it's not just individual words. So if I'm writing a sentence, perhaps it can do oops, sorry, I made that too long. It went well. So it can do multiple words simultaneously as well, and go back in the document as far as it needs to correct any potential mistakes. Something like he excels at is doing the grammar, and that's something we're always looking to improve. If you're ever using it and you notice any grammatical mistakes, anything like that, please do feel free to bring it to my attention, because grammar is something that we pride ourselves on with Lightkey. So if I write out a sentence using Lightkey, and there's going to be a few different mistakes within this, it's going to not only correct the grammar, it's going to correct the spelling, it's going to correct everything all simultaneously. All right. So as you can see here, it's gone back and it's done a few things. So it's correct don't to doesn't, therefore making it grammatically correct. It's also done the spell checking of collect and content here. Again, just to mention, we don't collect any of your privacy data. It's all completely confidential and private to yourself. And it's also removed the apostrophe from it's, making everything correct within the sentence. If I choose not to accept this prediction, I just click down and I use just the word spell checker, for example, it's going to correct don't to don't, which is correct. That's the word that I put in, but grammatically it's incorrect, unfortunately. And this is something that it excels at compared to other sort of spell checking software. Grammar is something that we are very passionate about, and something we're always looking to constantly improve. Another aspect quite similar to this is similar words. So I'm dyslexic myself, and I always get tripped up by very similar sounding words that are spelled reasonably similar, such as there, weather, and weather. I think we've all been there. I mean, who knows which weather is which weather? So if I just take a few examples, such as their car's been able to change that quickly to there. If I take the example of weather, and I'm going to write a sentence, I'm going to show you sort of how it learns just based on sentence structure. I hope the weather holds. So I don't even need to finish the sentence, but just based on my sentence structure there, it's been able to identify that that's not the weather I meant. I meant the weather is in rain, sun, everything like that. It's great. So something that's not very well known, to be honest, and something I want everyone to know is that Lightkey actually has an inbuilt calculator. It can do maths as well. So you don't need to be carrying around an old clunky calculator or pulling out your phone in the middle of class. You can just do your mathematics right here in your Lightkey. So if I just write 12 plus 6, for example, show me 29. And the sums can be quite complicated as well. So for times, it's an asterisk. I can never say that. And for a divide, it's a /. If I just hit equals, I don't know if that's correct, but I'm trusting Lightkey that it's going to be correct there. And I'll be going a little bit more over this in that tips and tricks webinar we have coming up next week. So be sure to register for that and maybe learn a few more bits and pieces you can do using the maths. So Lightkey, as I mentioned earlier, it's a learning tool. It's going to learn from you. It learns its whole vocabulary from you. It learns the jargon from you. It's going to save a lot of time when it learns sentences. I don't know if there's any assessors. I think there are assessors on this call. I've not looked at the names yet, I'll be completely honest. But it's going to save you a lot of time in assessment. If you're writing the same thing over and over again, you can use this tool, which is called sentence learning. Lightkey can actually learn sentences up to 18 words, including, it usually pops up, but doesn't like me this morning. But it can learn up to 18 words, including punctuation. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'm just going to start writing out a sentence. I always have to think of a new sentence because it learns my sentences every time I do this. So if I write, thank you. This is one I've done before. So you can see it's already learning to this Lightkey webinar. Don't want that to be capitalized. Thank you all for coming to this Lightkey webinar. And you can see it's already starting to learn what I'm looking to be writing. Thank you for coming. It's a little closer every single time. Let's do this a few more times. And as you can see, it's now been able to pick up the entire sentence, and it'll learn that I want to write this sentence when I start writing, say, thank you all for coming. It'll give me the option in future. So potentially it's going to save the students a lot of time, or yourself as assessors, in terms of writing the same thing over and over and over again. So far I've shown you Lightkey within a Word document, but Lightkey works anywhere, to be completely honest, and it works alongside different softwares, and it can work literally any place. So as I mentioned, you can use a Chrome extension for all Chromium resources in terms of Chromebooks and that sort of thing. But I'm going to open up my emails, which I often use Lightkey on, and I'll show you a few things you can do with this. First off, if I start writing good, Lightkey can actually identify what time of the day it is. So it's been able to pull up that it's morning, and it's just these small things that make differences, saves the user a little bit of time. I've always had problems with my working memory, and that's something I'm always happy to talk about if you ever have any questions. But it's these micro adjustments that save my little bit of brain thoughts, so that I can focus on actually getting the content down, working directly without having to think about, adding small little details. So if you put in a named email address and you just write sort of hi or hello, it'll fill in the name as well, which I think is quite useful. So this is a sentence I use quite a lot when I'm writing an email. And as you can see, it knows that I do this. So it's been able to automatically predict. And this saved me a fair bit of time when I'm writing pleasant emails. So if you do get an email from me and it starts like that, I'm sorry, I've been cheating a little bit. But unfortunately, Lightkey doesn't always instinctively work everywhere. So there is a function called Lightkey Anywhere. I'm just going to show you. So if I use my Pro Study, for example, it doesn't instinctively work within Pro Study. So I have to use this Lightkey Anywhere function. And to make that work, what you have to do is you have to hit the Alt button, and then you have to click and it'll come up with this little box here which says press enter to paste your text. Now I can just now start using my Lightkey in here, hit enter, and then I've engaged. I'm going to be showing you how you can force Lightkey to learn that I use, say, Pro Study quite a lot within the tips and tricks that I'll be doing next week, and how you can make it always identify I'm going to be using this frequently. But that's something we'll go across tips and tricks, as I mentioned. So 80 plus languages. So now I'm going to go into the dashboard and I'm going to start showing you around there and all the little things in here. So this is the main dashboard. Immediately you can see your analytics. I'm not going to dive too deep. I don't think they're hugely relevant at this particular junction, but if I come down to prediction profile, you can see here you have language options. So Lightkey currently works in 80 plus different languages, and that includes Welsh, that includes Scottish Gaelic, and that includes Irish, to name a few, and also Ukrainian if that's relevant to any particular person within this group. I've got it activated in English and Spanish. Now, something I want to note is Lightkey learns from the user. So if you're a user who flits between perhaps two different languages, over time, Lightkey's going to learn that you do that. But at least during the beginning starting phase, while it learns who you are and how you operate, it's worth changing the keyboard down here just to Spanish, let's say, for instance. I'll show you how that looks right now. I've been learning Spanish for the past 2 years unsuccessfully, so you're about to see the height of my Spanish abilities. Gracias por venir. So thank you for coming. And everything you've seen previously, such as the spell corrections, such as the grammar, such as similar words, everything like that, sentence learning, can be done across all 80 of these different languages. Just click back to English. Next, I'm going to come across to categories here. And these are actually specialist subject dictionaries, which you can activate literally as many as you want. And they do include academic dictionaries. And this is essentially for specific jargon to specific sort of industries or specific classes. And you activate it, and when you're writing, it'll be able to use those words, that vocabulary, saving you a lot of time to begin with. But you can also add your own custom category. So I've created my own based on words I use within my role in assistive technology. And you just do that right here. I'm going to show you all how to do this in tips and tricks, but you just simply drag a file in here or import a file, give it a name, and then you import it, and it'll be added to your vocabulary as well. The next thing I want to show you is this new read aloud functionality and these new visual impairment features that we've added, as well as this new startup process called Run Wizard. So first off to note, Lightkey is now enabled for screen readers. So we're talking JAWS, Windows Narrator, and Aventido, just to name a few. So this page, all screen reader enabled. If I come up to accessibility settings, and when you first get your Lightkey, it's going to run you through this Run Wizard. And I can come back to this literally at any time. If I just click this, this is how that will look. And it will just run me through a series of questions, how I like to accept predictions. We recommend tab just because it removes the confusion of perhaps making a new line or moving across one. But that's down to personal preference. If anyone has any preferences, do let me know how you're using it. We'd love to hear feedback. But if I just go through here, dyslexia, yeah. Now you can choose to, change these, accept them, or simply reject them as I feel. Come back up to accessibility settings. And I'm just going to tell you what all of these do. So optimize prediction experience for people with dexterity or physical typing difficulties. This is to try and save the user as many keystrokes as possible. So when a user with physical dexterity is typing, it's going to give a prediction much earlier, but at least to start with, the prediction will be less accurate. Over time, the more the user actually engages with Lightkey, the more accurate and the less relevant this will become. But the goal of this is essentially to save as many keystrokes as possible. Optimize prediction experience for people with dyslexia and other learning disabilities. This is an interesting one. So Lightkey learns jargon, it learns your vocabulary, your specific vocabulary over time. And let's say you're someone like myself who has dyslexia and I'm making spelling mistakes all the time. I'm missing out words when I'm writing sentences. Lightkey potentially over time might learn. And this essentially increases the threshold before it starts learning any of those unfortunate mistakes. By the time it gets to there, in my experience, it's already started to learn, but it's just a sort of a precautionary measure, in my opinion. To have these new color themes. This is the default theme. It's quite discreet. You can adjust the settings to be a bit more discreet and more working in the background than I have it. I like it to be slapping me in the face, just so I'm not missing anything. That's my personal preference, but everyone and everything about Lightkey can be altered to the individual. I really like this high contrast theme, but this was actually developed for users with visual impairments. It's to help it pop out as much as possible for people with low vision, for example. There's also this orange, blue, and green theme, and these were developed for users with color blindness. So if you ever have someone who has color blindness, we've taken that into account there as well. And this next one's really cool. And as the name suggests, it's just going to read aloud. So it's going to read aloud our predictions. It's going to read aloud our corrections, our grammar, spelling, everything. This operates within any Windows packed language that is available. So unfortunately, Welsh is not available at the moment, but any other language that's within Windows, you can activate, for example. But as I've got English here, I'll run you through why we've made these decisions and what these are. So we've set predictions as male, corrections as female. We found it quite important to easily identify, easily know which is a correction and which is a prediction. So having these different was something we recommend, but you can change them. You can also adjust the voice speed. We found users with visual impairments perhaps like to listen to it quite quickly. So that was something that surprised us at the time. We just activate read aloud. And if I come down to here, I'm going to write
Thank you all for coming to.
And I hope you could hear that. But that's quite simple. It's going to be able to
This Lightkey webinar.
Read aloud as the user is writing, therefore helping them engage with the corrections and predictions in real time. Well, right here, again, you've got your analytics. Right here, it's going to show you where I'm using the app. It's going to show me how much time I've saved, all the analytics and how much time I've saved over time. I always like to point out that I've, in the last 30 days, saved 1 hour and 21 minutes. Now, I've had 2 weeks off as well. So this has saved me a substantial amount of time. And if you knew me during education and I had this in education, this would have been monumental to me personally. I plan on doing some more sort of specific dyslexia webinars about how I'm using it, how it helps me and would have helped me back then. But I always like to look at this number and say, this would have been really, really useful for me within my education. You can come down to productivity and have a little deep dive into this. I think this is something for people who like to do that, but I'm not too sure how relevant it would be to you all today, as this is just a generic beginner webinar. But that is essentially Lightkey in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they want me to dive a little bit deeper into at this particular junction? So in terms of the Mac, there isn't a Mac version at the moment. it's something we've been talking back and forth for quite a while. I probably shouldn't say too much, but it's down to the actual software. The guy who made Lightkey is specialized within Windows, and potentially we need to put more work into it before that'll be a Mac version. So it's something we're hoping to do in the long term, but not anytime soon, Tom, unfortunately. So I've got a question from Sue here. What would you say are the key differences between Lightkey and its competitors? It depends on which competitors you're referring to. Lightkey and perhaps a service like Grammarly. I would say that Lightkey looks towards the future. It's all real time as opposed to looking back. For me personally, having the essay written and then put it into a service like Grammarly to have it all checked over. The problem I have is getting the words on the paper in the first place. So a tool like Lightkey helps me out more than potentially other tools like that. In terms of spell correction, which is also something it leans into a little bit as well, is the grammar. So I'm not going to name any names, but spell corrections will correct the spelling, but it might not correct the grammar, if that makes sense. Does that help? Yes, Christian, I'll be sending out an email after this to everyone who's attended, just to say, thanks for coming. Here's the recording. And if you want a CPD certificate, just email me back. I'll remember your name and I'll just include yours in your email, Christine, anyway. No problem at all. Any more for any more? Fabulous. Well, as I said, I'll be following up with an email. So if anyone wants any demonstration licenses or their CPD certificates, do let me know. I'll be sending an email later on. And thank you all very much for coming. I hope it was useful and informative. Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Tom. See you all soon. Happy Fridays, everyone. Thank you very much. And that is it.